We catch up with Jack Jones, aka Erwin Thomas, member of rock groups Get Off the Cat and Survival, and Hans Valen, Gnomes of Zurich, founding member of Electric Mary, singer, songwriter and guitarist of Southern Sons, member of John Farnham's band, Hong Kong Meeting, Tina Arena's band, the Jack Jones Band. The list goes on. Let's get him into the Zoom room and find out all the latest Jack Jones info. You're with Cheryl, that radio chick, and I'd like to welcome into the Zoom room today 2 times platinum, 8 times gold, and APRA award-winning Jack Jones. Yay!
Ooh, hello.
Thank you so much for joining us, singer, songwriter, guitarist with 90s rock giant Southern Sons.
Could call us that. Yep.
We've got some important and exciting dates to talk about. The 2026 Heart in Danger tour. We might go back a little bit before we go forward. Remind everybody why we love Southern Sons so much.
Oh, okay.
All right. You were born in 71 in Manhattan in New York City. Didn't come to Australia until age 10. Do you remember much of those first 10 years?
Oh, yeah, a lot. And I moved back in 2009 and was pretty much East Coast for about 7 years. Then I did a couple of years in LA, which I'd done before as well, but that was interesting. And then I did a year in Sweden. But yeah, look, I remember a lot of that time. I mean, it was my mum and I, and it was us against the world, basically. It was quite an adventure during that, first 10 years. And then obviously coming here was a big change, but a worthwhile change as well, because I got to be with my family and my cousins and my grandparents and aunties and uncles. And so I think that was... We basically started again here, but it was, with a lot of support. So, yeah, it was awesome. It was great.
Did you play guitar in those early years in the US, or did you pick it up when you came to Australia?
I begged my mum for a ukulele when I was 2. We were on our way to Australia. We had a visa issue in Hawaii, and Mum took me to this, it was like a fair at night, and there was this sort of mariachi group playing, and then there was like a little doll pantomime thing going on, and this thing was playing a ukulele. And I begged my mum for a ukulele. I did take some lessons in the US, but I think I was just too young to really grasp the concept of practicing. And then I took it up shortly after we came to Australia, and that's when Tony Calabro came into the picture, my beautiful guitar teacher, who's still teaching guitar down in Gippsland. Aww. That was the beginnings of quite an adventure.
At quite a young age, at age 14, you were in cover and original bands, also getting a reputation as a very accomplished and respected studio musician. That's a big clap, really.
Yeah, look, I just had such a passion for it. I just loved it. I guess I didn't realise at the time, because I was spending so much time every day doing it. I just thought everyone was like that. I thought everyone was spending 4, 6, 8 hours a day practicing, doing something. I wasn't a perfect student by any stretch of the imagination, but I did have periods of when I would sort of break through or, break through like a ceiling that you sort of plateau at. And I remember those times being very inspirational, because that's when I would really dig in harder, because I'd see that all this new stuff was available to me. So, I mean, not that I wanted to leave Traralgon for any sort of sinister reasons, but I didn't really see my future there doing what I wanted to do musically. But I tell you what, it gave me the best grounding and best foundation that I could have ever hoped for, because I was fortunate enough to sort of have the older, more respected and mature players. They all kind of took me under their wing and gave me a go. So,
that was
the dream. Yeah, that's right. That's right. I guess that was where a lot of the foundations of what I was doing were drilled into me. And then, I moved to Melbourne when I was 16, and the rest's kind of history.
Starting so young, this might actually be a difficult question to answer. I don't know. What do you think you might be doing now if this music thing hadn't have panned out for you?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm not sure. I mean, I may have ended up in some kind of hospitality, I think, because I enjoy people. I enjoy meeting people and I find them interesting. Person. I am. Even though, I go through periods of just enjoying being on my own, I do generally like interacting with people. It's, there's always something to learn from somebody that you're talking to. So I've always kind of been a bit that way. Yeah, maybe something definitely in the arts somewhere, but fortunately music found me.
Yeah.
And that was pretty much it, from very early in the piece. It was one thing that I was spared as I was growing up, that turmoil of, what are you going to do? All this pressure. You better get these grades to get into the next level, to level up in life. I kind of bypassed a lot of that just as a function of my musical endeavours.
You saved yourself a lot of stress there.
Yeah, look, I saved stress in some areas and I think I gained it in others. There's no preparation for this business. There's no manual for it, even though people have tried to write them. There's no real kind of preparing you. But you know what? It was really a great experience. I was the kid at school that couldn't get a girlfriend. I was the 14-year-old who always sort of fell in love with the 16-year-old, and she wanted the 18-year-old because he had a car.
Unrequited love.
It was just an interesting sort of lesson in, and then all of a sudden, I was playing in bands and all these girls were sort of interested, and I was thinking, you didn't like me last week, but now you've seen me playing at the Gala restaurant in Maui in Accent, supporting, James Scarley or Tony Pantano or, and which, don't get me wrong, my tongue is in my cheek with all this, but it was a wonderful sort of education just in the sort of psychology. Maybe I would have gotten into something like that, something of the mind, perhaps, because that does interest me.
Give a man a guitar and your C does go up a few points.
Apparently.
You're in quite a few different bands, including Hans Valen, covering bands Van Halen. So it didn't happen overnight, but it did explode quite quickly. In 89, you created Southern Sons with Buckle, and then in 90, you had that album, number 5 and singles, Hard in Danger reaching number 5. And did the trajectory sort of take off from there?
Yeah, look, I guess every overnight success has a sort of 15-year, period of work where people now for me, yeah, that's right. And, I was playing in Hans Valen with Virgil. I hadn't really sang in that band. I was just a guitar player, and that came from a bunch of other things. But then basically, Virgil just took me out to the car one day and asked me if I wanted to listen to some stuff. And that stuff was a band called The State that he was in. Now, I was very familiar with The State because I'd auditioned for the band The State was before it was The State, which was The Cutters when I was 14. So I was very familiar with the music and the personalities in that band. So after that meeting with Virgil, things moved fairly quickly. Before that, I'd kind of sung and played on a bunch of demos for other people, and I was just kind of, I guess, making a bit of a name for myself in Melbourne, and like you mentioned earlier, doing some sessions and stuff. I was doing some of those things kind of in Gippsland when I was like 14, and then I got to the city. I was a baby. And that was just, that was people, I think that was more people being kind to me and giving me an opportunity to do stuff, But then, stuff got kind of serious. Once the Suns took flight, that machine started kicking in. Then it's not 2 people or 1 person or 5 people trying to build a career. It's the whole floor of a building that's sort of making things happen and basically throwing it up against the wall and seeing what sticks. Kind of. I mean, that's how I don't want to sound too cynical, but that's pretty much how the music business works, or has in the past.
We discussed how you found your love of it and passion of guitar quite early. When did you discover that you also had a voice?
Look, I always sang. It was never something I wanted to do as my primary, which is so ironic because it's become that for me now. But I always thought that if I could sing a few BVs, I'd get the gig. I like playing guitar in someone's band over someone else who couldn't maybe sing a bit. But as it turned out, as fate would have it, I ended up being the singer in that band and getting to play a lot of guitar as well. Phil and I played so much together and obviously I learned a lot from him. That was just a very, very intense time it just hit very hard and then just kept going.
Because you were very busy. I mean, apart from your own work, you also, as you mentioned, a session musician and worked with Lisa Edwards and Deborah Byrne and the Emmanuel Brothers and Bachelor Girl. And, of course, the big one that we all remember is Farnham.
Of course. Yeah, well, look, it was pretty much all downhill from there, really, wasn't it? Like, when you think about it, starting at 19 in John's band and opening for him with Southern Sons, and having Sam Brown on that tour as well was an absolute, that was just wonderful. It's beautiful. It was just a magical time. I can't really call it anything other than that. It was just it really, really, really was. It was just something that's quite indescribable. That was the Chain Reaction tour. Then he asked me to join him again. I can't believe it. I'm 52. I can't believe I'm 55. You know, it's amazing. It's been longer since that happened than before it happened.
Well, you also was in Tina Arena's band as well. So you've been a busy boy.
Tina. I've always enjoyed, look, that was originally what I wanted to do. That was actually my dream, to be like the musical director for Lionel Richie or, you know, that was, I think when I saw Carlos Rios play with Lionel Richie, I was like, on a live scale, that was really appealed to me. And I've always, enjoyed going out with other people. You know, the good fortune of doing a run with Richard Marx, which was great, and Daniel Bedingfield in the UK. And, you know, the fabulous Tina. I mean, I just adore her. She's amazing. So any opportunity I get to do things like that, I usually try and, if they feel right, I usually try and take them, because the thing about that too is that there's this really intense time of learning the music and then getting ready for the tour. But by the end of the tour, you're ready to do your own thing again. You're not sick of it, but you're kind of really inspired and you've got all these ideas and you've been putting all this stuff on, well, then it was cassette players, micro cassette recorders. But, you know, today in this age, it's your phone. But basically, you know, by the end of that, you've got all this sort of creative food. Yeah, that's right.
Get it out of you.
You're ready to do something for you. So, yeah, I don't do that as much anymore, obviously, because there's just not as much of that kind of happening. And more so we're doing our own tours these days. Yeah. So that takes a lot of legwork as well.
Because, you know, last time we sat down and did this, Jack, was in 2021. This time, 2021. That's 5 years ago.
Yeah, goes quick, doesn't it?
Yeah, and we were talking about, because I think you just joined the Fabulous Caprettos at that stage, and we were chatting about that. So let's not leave it 5 years till we chat again next time.
Good idea.
Yeah. So I guess, is that why you've left the Fabulous Caprettos? Because, I mean, the Southern Sons got back together in 2019 for the One Electric Day concert, and then you toured last year and touring again this year. I guess you can't do everything, can you?
You can't. And I think, you know, sometimes you got to know when to leave the party. And when I say leave the party, it doesn't mean I'll never play with the Caprettos again. I absolutely loved and have enjoyed doing that gig. But I think sometimes you need to create a clearing and a space for something else to arrive into. And if you just fill your life up all the time with the same things, then there's no space for anything else to occur. And as much as I love doing that gig, I really do enjoy it. We've all been familiar with each other, all the principals, whether it's Daryl, Russ, Dave, Ray, Wendy now, Joe Camilleri, you know, like there's been a bit of a revolving door, even though Ray and I have been there from the start. Originally it was Daryl, Russell, Ray and myself. I guess sometimes you just got to have a little break.
Yeah, it's time.
It was time.
Yeah.
I've got a recording studio to build. I've got records to make and new sort of things to take on. And they're all big projects.
Yeah.
Like really, really substantial projects. And I'm not getting any younger. So you've got to make some choices that seem at the time from the outside don't seem like they're choices that you should be making. But when you've got a close look across everything, you realise that sometimes certain things have to give, you know?
You are pretty busy all through April and half of May.
We're starting Warrigal on Saturday night. That's going to be exciting because it's kind of like a hometown gig. So I'm very excited about that. Looking forward to that.
So you're in Victoria, Queensland, New South Wales, back to Victoria, WA, and then for the Adelaideans, May the 2nd at the Gulf, get onto the Googleometer, onto the southernsons.com.au /dates to book your tickets. Then you're back to New South Wales and back to Queensland. You're everywhere, man.
Yeah, we're doing a few. We're hitting a few places a couple of times, but it's great. Look, I'm super excited about this tour. We have some new additions in the band, which has breathed a whole lot of new life and enthusiasm and inspiration into the group, and it's sounding amazing. We had a rehearsal early in the week, and I was just absolutely blown away. The band is sounding really good. We've done all new video stuff for this tour, that's been a big undertaking, but I'm so happy with how it's. I think we just keep going from strength to strength. So, and it takes a lot to keep this thing going. Let me tell you. If it wasn't for Reggie and Dee Dee, Darren, my manager, I may have given it a rest earlier. It's a very exciting time, and I can't wait to get out there on the road doing this again.
Like the good old favourites, Heart in Danger, Always and Ever, Hold Me in Your Arms, Waiting for the Train, all those, and some newies as well.
Yes, I do a little acoustic sort of intimate part of the show, I guess you could call it, where I just sit down with an acoustic guitar. Reggie floats in and out. We play some of those old hits that you mentioned there. Well, Hold Me in Your Arms kind of hits there. And I'm playing a couple of new songs as well, just to keep the wheels turning. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're not trying to do some, Jazz Odyssey version of the Suns like a lot of bands kind of do, like blues exploration. It's not that. We're trying to stay very true to, because, there's an element of nostalgia with this now that we're 30 plus years down the track. I think there's an element of nostalgia that me as a fan of music likes when I go to see a band or an artist, a favourite artist of mine. So,
the nostalgia factor is very, very strong. And as a punter, we don't like you messing with those classics too much. You can fiddle around a little bit, but don't get too fancy on it.
I hear. It's funny because there's a part of me that absolutely loves just sort of tearing down a version of a song and then rebuilding it another way. But also there's a part of me that's a fan of music, and I'm a punter too. If I want to hear that, I'll go and hear an artist that I know, which is why I'm fortunate enough to have two identities. And one of those identities gets to do whatever the hell he wants whenever he wants. And that's Erwin Thomas. And, Jack Jones kind of has to toe the line a bit sometimes. I know it might sound weird to people hearing me speak of myself in the third person and all that sort of business. But I think as contextually speaking, I like hearing this band sounding like this band.
Yeah.
I don't like hearing this band sounding like it's trying to be something other than what it is.
Yeah.
It should just be fully committed to that. I think, because I think that's where, it's not our bread and butter, but it's our relationship with the people who have supported us doing what we do. They're all welcome to get on the internet and say, we want to hear Southern Suns sounding like a different band. And you know what? If enough of them say that, I might entertain it. But really, I just love what we do and how we do it. I've never seen any real reason to try and push it too far either way,
I think our time is almost up. I've got a quick 6, but I might just have to cut it down to a quick 3. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Alive or dead, who would you most like to collaborate with, Jack?
God, I am a big Bowie fan, but I'm also a big Lennon fan. I also loved Hendrix. That's so
how do you
difficult.
decide?
We could start with Lennon and see how we went for them. I don't know. Maybe I'd say let's try Bowie, because I think you never know with someone like Lennon, because you may end up not liking them after you meet them. You're not sure. You know what I mean? They could be pretty spicy, some of those guys.
Yeah.
But in a perfect world, there's a bunch of them that you'd give your left arm to, that's a good start.
They say sometimes don't meet your heroes, don't they?
They do. They do. And look, I've had my own experience with that. Sometimes it's been great, other times diabolical. So,
not so much.
But you know what? You got to I'm a firm believer in just putting yourself out there. Just go for it.
A song that you wish more people heard of yours?
Well, I've got a song that hasn't been released yet, but we've played it a lot. But I'll be playing it on the tour, so I won't really talk too much about that. But that's a great question. Look, a lot of the evolution of Erwin Thomas, to be honest with you. That album was a labour of love. It took 4 years from inception to completion, and it's still some of my proudest work to date. There's a particular song on that record called Consequence that I think should have really had a
bigger audience,
a bigger life, but it is what it is. But I love that song.
Well, you heard it, people. Get on to the evolution of Erwin Thomas and have a listen. A piece of advice that you've received from somebody that was invaluable to you.
John Farnham said to me once, he saw a picture of me. I think it might have been after I was Rock 90. He goes, mate, lose the watch.
That's invaluable advice.
He was right.
Yeah. Was it the look or don't
I don't
look at the
know.
time?
I didn't know. I think it was more the look. And I get it.
Yeah.
I totally get it.
You're a rock
Totally
star.
get
You
it.
don't need to know what time it is.
That's what someone else does for you.
Yeah, exactly. You've got people for that. I just
It's
also
been a
want to
pleasure.
say one other quick thing. In '99, I just found this out doing my research. You played on the Tour of Duty concert for the troops in East Timor, and I just wanted to say, well done, good on you on the Peacekeeper tour. Well done.
Thank you. Well, you know what? Look, I've got a lot of my family that are in the like various levels of the police force. I've got family and friends who serve our country. And, you know, whether I agree or disagree in some of those things are handled, at the end of the day, these people are heroes and they deserve to be acknowledged. And any opportunity I get to show support with what I do, I'm always happy to throw my hat in the ring.
Well done. Thank you for giving back.
Bloody good people.
Jack, thank you so much for sitting down with us. We wish you all the best on the tour and we look forward to seeing you down the front here May 2nd at the Golf.
See you at the Gov.
I'll be the blonde
See you
kid
there.
bouncing up and down. Thank you. Bye for now.
Au revoir. Ciao.
You are listening to Still Rocking It, the podcast with Cheryl Lee.
I think I shall leave you with Consequences from the Evolution of Erwin Thomas. And fun fact, this song was co-written by Jack and Rusty Brown, singer of Electric Mary. You're with Cheryl Lee, that radio chick. Thank you so much for joining me on the Still Rocking It podcast. Hope to catch you again next time. Get out when you can, support Aussie music, and I'll see you down the front.